Hello and welcome back to my LEGO Castle Kingdom Work in Progress series. This time we're going to be taking a look at this harbour section, which is now fully finished and includes this massive medieval sailing ship, a fully detailed ocean with 3D waves, as well as this really unusual and vibrant underwater section full of all kinds of aquatic wildlife. And as an extra bonus feature, I've brought this area to life with another functional mechanism to add some movement to this ship and create the illusion that it's actually floating on the water. This working waves mechanism produces a very subtle but realistic movement as the waves roll under it, and this was especially exciting to build because I've not seen anyone else do anything like this. And this was not an easy task because, as you can imagine, this ship is quite heavy, so I spent quite a bit of time making sure that the mechanism was as strong as possible and could withstand the weight of this model, because I didn't want to strain the motor or have it buckle under pressure. So I can't wait to show you some more of that design, and we'll take a look at the actual mechanism later on. But first, I'd like to begin with an overview of this Middle Ages inspired sailing ship. One of my main goals when designing this was to really emphasise the fact that this is a ship built in the Middle Ages, and one of the main distinguishing features in each of these types of ships is that they all feature a design which can be roughly split into three sections. We have a raised bit at the front, then a recessed section that curves downwards in the middle, and then another really tall section towards the back of the ship. And as you can see, I've replicated this in my LEGO version, which is mainly built on top of some pre-made hull pieces, but then of course I have done a whole lot of customization for all of the rest of the parts of the ship. And then you can see I've created this curved section in the middle, just using some sideways arch pieces in dark brown, which is what I'm using for the main colour of the body of the ship. I think that works really nice in contrast to this deep blue shade of water for the ocean. So over on this front deck, I've decorated it with a couple of knights in some very exotic and unusual sets of armour. The idea is that they came here from a distant land that's got completely different culture and style to the rest of the knights in this castle kingdom. So I wanted to make sure that the minifigures really stood out from the other knights, which I'm going to include in the main castle itself. So over here you have a guard with some kind of pike or spear, and then another guy who's just exiting the hatch to access this floor inside of the ship. And if you're wondering how I made this rigging for this smaller mast on the top, this is actually quite a simple design made out of just two types of LEGO pieces. So on the sides you have these strings with the bar segments in between them, same as this string piece which tensions this front mast to that tall mast with a sail on it. And then for the rungs of the rigging, or the ladder, I've just attached a bunch of skeleton arms in black. I'm really happy with that design because I've also managed to get it to the exact right size which I need by just tucking the excess of that string underneath the deck out of the way. So that's how it looks like it's actually cut to size, when in fact the rest of the string is just hidden underneath the deck. So that's a really cool touch in my opinion. Then as for the top parts of these masts, well, first of all you'll notice that all of the sails on the ship are currently rolled up, because that's the idea, this is a docked ship, so the sails wouldn't be down anyway when it's in the harbour. And that also means that you get a lot more space to see all of the other details behind each of these sails, compared to if I just built them hanging down. So to represent these rolled up sails, I've just used a bunch of round 2x2 bricks with some domes on the end for these two larger sails at the bottom. Then for the two smaller sails on the top and back masts, I'm just using a bunch of 1x1 round bricks, also in tan. And all of that is topped off with this neat little crow's nest, as well as a flag which really helps define the top and the highest point of the entire ship. And then over at the back there, you can see the steps, which are very steep, but they do provide access to all of the floors on this ship, including this very top deck, which is where the captain and the navigator are currently planning out their next voyage. And this is a very nice bit of shaping for this back portion of the ship, which, as you can see, includes this very shiny black sloped pieces, which is designed to look like some kind of carved and painted wood, complete with these little brown wooden style flowers embedded into the different channels in this design. And all of that fancy wooden styling continues around to the back of the ship, which includes some more curved wooden details made out of whip pieces, a small shield, and a window. And now's a good time to explore the interior of the ship, which includes 2 rooms on the lower deck, as well as the captain's cabin on the top. So let's begin with this room at the front of the ship, which, as you saw earlier, can be accessed through this door on the lower deck. And this is where the crew stores all of their equipment and cargo. And then you also have this little jail cell area in the corner, which is currently housing some kind of dangerous criminal. And that features a little opening door, which is a really neat design, just attached to the wall. And that's what that guard outside is for. Maybe they've captured this wanted bandit and are bringing him into this kingdom to collect their bounty. Then over on the room on the other half of the ship, this is a bit more of a relaxing place, because this is where the crew sleeps in their hammocks hanging up from the walls of the ship. And there's one of the crew enjoying a drink at the back there. And he's probably got that drink from this massive barrel, complete with a tap at the end, which could be holding the crew's fresh water storage, or more likely some strong alcohol. Then over on the other side, there's a small shrine with the ship's coat of arms, and a chest which can open up, and you can just about see some gold and a couple of gems in there, as well as some of the crew's personal possessions. And now we can view the third and final floor on this medieval ship, which is the captain's cabin. So you can see this is a bit of a better view how it connects to this steep steps which go up to the top. And then if we look through the doorway, you can see you're greeted with the captain's desk, complete with a map, very early medieval compass, and a writing quill, as well as a comfy looking seat, and a very fancy, for the time, bed, as well as some more decoration in the corner, in the form of a ship in a bottle, and paintings hanging on the wall. So a really nice selection of details. And now the moment you've been waiting for. How did I create this working wave effect? Like I mentioned at the start, I spent a lot of time perfecting this mechanism until I was happy with the amount of movement that I was getting, and also the speed that the ship floats from side to side, because I didn't want to make it overly dramatic or anything like that. It's not supposed to be in a storm after all. I just wanted that gentle swaying that you get on a regular day in the harbour. And I think this final design has achieved just the right balance between speed and movement. So the current mechanism is deeply integrated into the underwater rockwork below the boat. So to make it easier to explain how it works, here's one of the prototype designs which I came up with originally. So you can see this features the same movement that I'm using on the ship, although on a much smaller scale, with just one segment of the hull to demonstrate this functionality. And you can see as I turn the handle, this whole piece moves from side to side and slightly up and down, which is exactly what you're seeing with the big ship over at the back there. So basically the idea of this mechanism is you have these 2 lift arms on either side, and they each lift up and down, and that in turn moves this Technic beam in the middle, up and down, and that's attached to the hull of the ship. Or really you can attach anything on this. You could even use this with something like a small boat or a rubber dinghy, but I think the best effect is with a large ship like this one. And basically the main difference between this simple prototype and the final mechanism is I've basically reinforced this structure and also doubled it up so it can support a much heavier weight. And that is best seen with the ship out of the way like this. So it's got that same movement as the prototype, with the whole assembly gradually getting pushed from side to side. And when I add the whole piece back onto it, it instantly integrates with the mechanism and picks up that swaying movement from underneath. And if you're interested in seeing a more detailed look at this working waves mechanism, I have already made a full how to build tutorial for the basic design over on my Patreon page, and that will be linked in the description below. For now though, let's continue exploring the rest of the new additions to this harbour area. And before we take a look at this entire underwater bit, I just want to show off some of the techniques which I've used for the actual surface of the water and these waves which are very evenly spaced out on the surface of the sea. And the way I made these is through a combination of transparent headlight bricks with 1x1 slopes on them, and you can see how I've offset each of these by roughly half a stud. You can see some of the blue jumper plates which I've used to achieve that, and that just creates a really nice natural curve to each of these waves, which really makes it look like they're rolling off the top of the shore. And one other thing I'd like to point out is you might have noticed a slight change in colour for this circle over here, and that's because this part is built on top of a transparent 16x16 base plate, and same with here, although it's a much smaller area which you can just about see the subtle change of colour. And not only does that indicate a depth of the water, but it also lets in plenty of light, and you might even see, especially with the white part over there, it's actually colouring the light and making it look like it's shining blue light down onto the dolphins below. And that also creates a really noticeable effect on the other side, where that nice blue shine is really visible on the stingray. So finally, let's finish up by exploring the rest of this underwater section by taking it out to view it a bit more easily. So here's what the actual underwater structure looks like. And this is built on top of two 32x32 aquazone base plates, and then I've also added these blue amphitheatre style walls to the back to act as a nice watery backdrop to the entire underwater scene. And obviously it is a little dark when it's actually in place under my sea, so I might look into adding some kind of blue LED light strips positioned around the back of those walls to brighten it up and make it look a bit more watery. So let's explore all of the different parts of this layout, starting with a look at the wildlife, which includes some things like lobsters, different types of fish, a family of dolphins floating above here with these transparent bricks to make it look like they are actually floating. And then over here there's a little clam with a pearl in an actual realistic pearl colour from the Lego Dots theme, as well as this anchor connected to the moving platform on the mechanism, and this has an added bonus of making it so that the chain also moves around as the ship rocks from side to side, so that's another really nice realistic touch. And hiding behind the plants is a little fish zooming around there, and this isn't its own mechanism or anything, this just feeds off the motor that powers the working wave mechanism, because I didn't have anything else to fill that area, so I thought I might as well make use of the motor that was already in place. Then as we move to the other side, this bit includes a selection of coral, shells, and various types of seaweed, as well as some translucent coral at the top there, and also this whale skeleton. Then there's a little fish at the back, and since you can't really see that bit, I didn't include too much detail around that part, but that is where that large power functions motor is. Then that goes out into a cable where the battery box is attached underneath the structure where all my motors are attached for all the different functional elements in my castle kingdom. So to disguise this working waves mechanism, I thought that the middle was a great place to include a small underwater cave system. So I've tried to replicate the looks of an underwater cave by just using entirely blue pieces, along with things like starfishes, a little turtle swimming in between the corals, and a school of fish around that area. Then there's also a hermit crab from the latest collectible minifigure series. And this cave system continues around to the other side, where instead of a moving fish, there's an octopus. Also very cool. Then over in this half of the build are some more corals, including this very cool design made out of an afro hairpiece, as well as a jellyfish floating there with his long tail of stingers made out of a blue flame piece, and also this stingray, which as you saw includes that really cool blue light reflection. And then we have a bit of a scene going on at the back there with a hammerhead shark having some lunch. And then finally we have a little crab in this crevice under there, and hiding away in the corner in the depths is an anglerfish of the glow-in-the-dark variety, which really comes to life at night. And with that concludes another episode of my LEGO Castle Kingdom Work in Progress series. I hope you enjoyed the update, and if you did, then don't forget to leave a like, comment and subscribe to my channel. And like I said, if you're interested in a how to build tutorial for this working wave mechanism, then check out the link to my Patreon page below, where I've done a full step-by-step tutorial for everything you need to build the basic parts of the design. As well as that, there's also lots more exciting bonus videos and how to build tutorials over on my Patreon page, along with a whole bunch of other really awesome benefits and behind the scenes content. So a big thank you to all of my supporters on Patreon. The link to that will be in the description, and I'll see you guys next time, and thanks for watching.